Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Q&A at the Dice Tower. I hope you had a great weekend. We are a week and a half away from American Thanksgiving, so woo, fried turkey. I can smell it already. This week, though, so first of all, let's get started with what was I going to talk about? Oh, things that are happening this week. So first of all, we have just now our promos from previous Kickstarters, not this year, but from previous Kickstarters. All those are now, or many of them, are up on the Board Game Geek store. So you can go and buy that stuff there, get the promos there. So we appreciate Board Game Geek working with us in that regard. Secondly, on Thursday this week, we're doing a top 10 list with Quinn's from Shut Up and Sit Down. So that will be fun. Talking about our top 10 unique games. And then this Saturday, me and Z are doing a thing with Will Wheaton and other people from the tabletop industry on the Bicycle Twitch channel. Once we have a link for that, we'll be posting that on our things. So, all right, let's go through questions. I'll answer some questions, but not all the questions. Do you like the back of my laptop? Thanks. That's going to be part of our new Kickstarter, so stay in tune for that. We've been sitting on this picture for quite a bit now. What is Fuzzy's favorite treat and or toy? Treat. She really likes those toothbrush things, those green things. I don't know why, but I think it's also ingrained in her that I give that to her every morning after we walk. She gets one of those. So that might be that. Toy, she likes any. I have this stuffed puppet gorilla that fights her in my hand, and I've had to buy like 3 times now because after a while I'm like, I can feel that through my hand. But she likes that. Also, tennis balls. What do you think of the changes with Hearthstone? So be more specific. What changes do you mean? I just played Hearthstone all this weekend. I've been playing a lot of Hearthstone. I didn't notice any changes. I mean, I guess there's some new thing with experience points and stuff, but I don't know. We'll keep track of that. I played their new version of Hearthstone. There's like different modes to play it. And I played this mode where I forget the name of, I have it right here. I can just look it up. Actually, the last thing I apparently did was Hearthstone. Was that the last thing I did in my iPad? Huh. I played in Battlegrounds mode. I don't know if I like Battlegrounds mode yet or not. I played 3 times, and I came in 7th, and 6th. The first time I played, I came in 7th only because the person who lost must have just been awful. I had no idea what was going on. I thought there would be some sort of tutorial I could figure it out. I could not figure it out. So I went and played through the tutorial. Then I was like, oh, okay. So then I came back and still got 7th. Then I played and got 6th, and I was really trying hard, really trying to think and stuff. And each time they're like, you get 0 points. You get 0 points. And I thought, well, that is a good chunk of my time. Why can't the losers get at least a few points? But I don't even know what the points are for. Let's see. Do you get a lot of emails when the podcast is late, or do everyone assume you get a lot of emails and don't email? I get 0. To the point where this past week, and I was very curious about that, the past week, just through sheer whatever, the podcast was late. All Tom Vasel's fault. And I thought, is no one listening to the podcast? No one even seemed to notice it went up late. So that kind of bothered me a bit, I suppose, that no one had even mentioned it. It wasn't mentioned online, anywhere. I don't know anything about Cosmic Frog. How many encounters with gators have you had in Florida? I assume you're talking about the actual alligators. Just when we go to the parks and look at them. I've never seen one in the wild, so to speak. Well, in the wild, I've seen them. I've never seen one in suburbia. I saw Zombie Teens Evolution and Boring Unboxed. I wonder if you were planning to post a review of it. I plan to post a review of many games as time goes by. If you ever done a top 10 games where you want to pay attention to others' players' turns. So what you mean in that is you care about what the other players are doing per se. That's kind of interesting. I don't know. I don't know if I would do a top 10 of that. My favorite fast food joint is, I don't know. Depends what you consider a fast food joint. So if I can expand to everything, probably Five Guys, but I don't know if Five Guys is fast food, but I like Five Guys. If we're talking about nationwide chains, easily Subway. If you're talking about burger joints, Wendy's. And if we're talking about, if I can't do Subway, then Taco Bell, I guess. But I try to go to these places very infrequently. Have you thought about making a top 10 publishers in your 2020 coverage? I'd love to hear your thoughts on which publishers did well, improved greatly, or impressed you. That's an interesting idea, but I'm hesitant to do so. If only because we've had a lot of sponsorship from publishers over the year, and honestly, I think sponsoring the Dice Tower, and this is how egotistical I get, but I think sponsoring Dice Tower is the mark of a publisher who's trying to do good things. They want to get the word out there. But if I take that into account, it's problematic. But stay tuned. I got an interesting idea about that coming up. Can you share what the topic of the Will Wheaton panel will be? Yeah, I think I can share it. It's just about how the industry, how to get more people to the gaming table, I believe. Rewards, I've gotten 11 free packs. Well, I didn't get 11 free packs, so I don't know what I'm doing. I almost never play against human beings, though, in Hearthstone. I always play against the computer. How do I learn games? I play them. That's how I do it. How do you decorate your home for the holidays? It all depends. We do a Christmas tree for sure. In fact, today, my daughter Holly, I told her to test all the lights we have, because if we don't have enough, if lights do break as time goes by, and so I'm going to order some more lights, and so that we have enough for the Christmas tree. Sometimes I nail Christmas lights up inside the house, and I know that I'm really weird in this regard, but when we decorate, I don't do a ton of decoration outside the house because I like Christmas decorations. So we decorate in the house. I put our Christmas lights up inside the house because I like to see Christmas lights. If I put them up outside our house, the 6 people who drive by at night will get a joy out of them. But if I put them up inside the house, then we can all look at them and love them. I bought one of those Christmas light laser thingamabobbers, and that we have year round because my son loves it and uses it as a nightlight. Have you ever watched Avatar: The Last Airbender, the cartoon, not that abomination of a live-action movie? If so, what are your thoughts? No, my kids watched through all of Avatar and then all of the sequel where there was a female main character. I paused and watched one Avatar episode with them where they were watching a play of their lives. I don't know what episode that was. And I said, this is ridiculous. And the kids were trying to explain to me that this was not what the show was actually about. Blah, blah, blah. They thought it was funny. I didn't know what was going on. I watched more, Korra, that's what the other one's called. I watched several episodes of that. It seemed pretty interesting, but again, I was never sure what was going on in it. Then I would ask questions, the kids explained it to me, and I was still a little bit lost. I might watch it at some point. The thing I watched this week that was interesting, besides Mandalorian Episode 3, which was amazing. I mean, Mandalorian Season 2 is bringing it. I mean, people are going to argue that the second episode of this season was weaker, but I loved it. But Episode 3, fantastic. Although, it's funny because me and my daughter had very different reactions to Episode 3. I was like, this is cool. And she just kept squealing because she watches Clone Wars, and so she knew all the references that matched that. I did not. I was saying Battlestar Galactica. She's like, no, Clone Wars. That's as non-spoiler as I can be. But that's great. But I watched Imagineers. I haven't watched that yet on Disney Plus. I watched the first episode. I really like that, so I'm going to probably watch more of that. I've not played Legends of Runeterra. I know Airlines Europe is in your top 100. Any chance that Pan Am could surpass it in your next top 100 rankings? You'll have to watch and see. But I'll tell you this. Very rarely will you see a game that I give a seal of approval to make my top 100. Not because they're bad games by any means, but because seal of excellence are the games I like even better. So you can usually tell where games will end up, but not every game that gets seal of excellence makes the top 100. There's so many games that come out over the course of the year. I don't even know what games came out this year will make my top 100. Well, that's not true. I know 2, 100% are in my top 100. For sure, that came out this year. My number 1 and number 2 from 2020, respectively. I already have my top 10 for 2020 made. And now, as I play each new game, I see, will it make it into the top 10 or not? So I still have a few games from 2020 that I haven't played that I think might make it in. I'm waiting for one of them to show up in the mail. Everyone else seems to be getting it from Kickstarter. And I played some pretty big games that I thought might make my top 10. Actually, that's interesting. Let's quick pull that up since we're talking about this. Let's pull up top 10 anticipated games of 2020 Dice Tower. So let's see what I said for this list, because I honestly don't remember what games I put on this list. We did this list with Rodney. So let's go to the end. And there's the great music from the Dice Tower, which I love this ending music. All right, so let's see what I said. Metal Gear Solid, haven't played that yet. The Great Wall, haven't played that yet. Ikeon, I did play that and reviewed it. Sleeping Gods, haven't played yet. Oathswood into the Deepwood, haven't played yet. Tidal Blades, I did play that. Monumental, I played that. Dwellings of Elder Vale, I played that. Project Elite, played that. And Etherfields, played that. So of my top 10 anticipated games, I've played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. So I haven't played 5? No, I haven't played Dwellings of Elder Vale, Oathswood into the Deepwood, Sleeping Gods, The Great Wall, and Metal Gear Solid. Well, I have played The Great Wall, and I played Dwellings of Elder Vale, but I played both of them before their final productions. I'm not even sure those will come out. Metal Gear Solid definitely has been pushed back, from what I understand. Sleeping Gods, we'll see. There's been delays this year, obviously, with everything, so who knows. Dwellings of Elder Vale should be in the mail at some point. Oathswood, Oathsworn, I haven't kept track of where that one is, so I don't know. And Great Wall, I'm not sure when that one's being delivered either. That's interesting. Will my top 10 games have any crossover with these anticipated games? You'll have to wait and see. Alrighty. Well, that was not that fascinating of a sideline there. So let's see. My manager wants to have a year-end function around my board game collection of 45 games. Most players will be noobs. How should I do it? Whew. That is way too broad of a question. I would go on Facebook or Board Game Geek and ask that question, listing your games and asking people what they think. And anyone who comes in and talks about you should play Terraforming Mars, immediately ignore everything else they say. Terraforming Mars is a great game, but what I mean is any complicated game, if people tell you should play complicated games and new people, they're wrong. We noticed just didn't seem something we needed to bother you with. It was going to show up eventually. Sure, but it's always possible that there's an error, and I don't notice unless someone emails me. You mentioned a game from Cactus Game Design last week during Board Game Breakfast and how that company makes the Redemption CCG. Have you ever played that game? Yes. I played it in the past, but it's not one that's aged well or I have any desire to play again. No werewolf this week? You mean no scheduled werewolf? I haven't scheduled it yet, but I do. I just pick different times of day to schedule werewolves, and I never tell people when they're going to be. That way different people have a chance to jump in the game. Have you had In-N-Out? I certainly have. That would be, if I ever make a top 10 of overrated restaurants, that would be number 1. I was blown away with how normal it was. People are like, this stuff's amazing. And I was like, I guess it's okay. Like, it's not nearly as good as Five Guys. It's not as good as Whataburger. It's not as good as Carl's Jr. What are people talking about? I am mind blown. But specifically, Whataburger and Five Guys blow it away. And that's not even talking about places like Fuddruckers and like a homemade burger joint. I don't know that I would pick it over Burger King. I know, anathema, blah, blah, blah. This is definitely a regional thing. I don't get it. I tried it. It was fine. I had the secret sauce, whatever. I had the fries. The fries were good. But I wouldn't go out of my way to one. Are you reading a new book series? I am. I am currently reading through a 3-book series from Orson Scott Card, the Lost Gate, Gate Thief, and Gate Father. I'm not sure how I feel about them yet. I want to read the conclusion and see. Orson Scott Card's writing is very distinct. Everyone speaks in a very smart aleck way to one another. You'll notice this in Ender's Game and his other novels that he's written. But that's okay. I'm just holding on for now until, let's see, what's the date here? I need to hold on until November 17th. That's tomorrow. Oh! I'm not going to get any work done this week when the Rhythm of War comes out. That's not even tomorrow. That's midnight tonight. I will not stay up and read it. I've already bought it on Amazon. It will be downloaded. 4th book in this. It has 459,000 words. That's crazy. Almost 500,000 words. It's longer by 8,000 words than the last book was. Only 112 chapters, though. Very excited about this. So, yay. No Whataburgers in South Florida? That is correct. I looked at a thing. I know they're in the Panhandle because my kids go to college there, and if I ever go up and visit them, I'll be like, oh, where's a Whataburger? I haven't seen one down here. I wonder if there might be one in the Orlando area, but no. Down here, we have McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, Sonic's, Checkers, Five Guys, Fuddruckers. Those are all the chains, I think. We Arby's, I guess, but Arby's doesn't do burgers. Hardee's. There's no Hardee's down here. Nope. Not that I've seen. And I'm not counting all the chicken places and stuff like that. I'm just talking about burger joints. I think that's it, at least down in my area. In Miami proper, there may be some other stuff. Hey, Tom, no werewolf this week. A super chat, but I already answered that question. How about a $75 pledge? 100 was too much, but I could have done more than 50. Well, you always can. You could always pledge 50 and just raise it to 75. I haven't solidified what pledge levels yet. We're still working on that sort of thing. What's your favorite flicking game? I don't know. I'll be doing the top 10 flicking games. Well, okay, I shouldn't say I don't know. It's pitch card. But so I think an expensive crokinole board is worth it compared to buying a board game. It's all up to how much you'll play it. Do people in tropical places use palm trees for Christmas trees? I guess, mostly in movies. I mean, you can buy Christmas trees down here. Now, I don't buy them live just because of the mess that it makes, and it's also work. But I definitely have, an artificial one, and you can buy artificial ones all over the place. And as far as I know, everyone uses pine trees for Christmas trees. Have I finished the Fable series? I just finished it 2 days ago. Did you read Cubs in Toyland? I did. How did you feel about that volume? I will say that was a hard graphic novel to read. Like, I wondered if it was going to go to where it went. It did, and that was tough. But later on in Fables, they referenced that where one of the main characters goes to heaven, and there's a I'm being very Rado-ish right now, but there was a panel there that made me tear up a bit. I very rarely do so, but yeah. Well, anyway, I'm getting verklempt. It's because yesterday, not a huge deal, but my yesterday was the Jack's 10th birthday, so it reminded me of that. Now, oh man, that was tough. But yeah, that was a good series. I'm not sure I liked the ending of Fables. I thought the ending, they tried to make this huge shebang, right? And it felt very artificial, I think. Fables does some weird stuff. Like, they'll have these big villains that sometimes they're gone like that. It's kind of a weird. And I thought the big, I did not care for the ending as much. And another problem I have with Fables is their repercussions seem to be kind of all over the place. They'll be like, we'll forgive you for the horrible things you've done, and we won't forgive you. It's weird to me. All right. How many hours do I spend playing board games each day? I don't play board games every day, and when I do, it's a variable number of hours. You'll never, talking about our playthrough of Pandemic Legacy Season 2, we did record our playthrough from Pandemic Season Legacy 1, or 0, I mean. I don't think we're going to be recording our Legacy playthroughs anymore, because they get some views, and I get why people watch them, but I don't like doing them. I don't like there was just so many negative reactions to it, and also we just want to play it and not worry about cameras. That being said, we are going to be posting a playthrough. It's going to be in a few weeks from now, so it's not coming anytime soon, that I'm actually kind of excited about. We're going to try something we haven't done ever, actually. For the 12 days of Christmas collaborations, did each contributor choose 3, or did the 4 of you agree on the 12 and divvy them up for presenting? No, actually, each contributor picks them. Now, what happens is I always pick last. That's always been my shtick. I pick last because I play the most games. So they picked the games, and like when Roy did thematic and he picked whatever game, and I'd be like, Roy, I was going to pick that game. But it's not a big deal. I just pick other games. I was surprised at the number of people who thought these were top 12 lists. They're not. They're just 12 games in no particular order. We tried to pick games that were new but available, that were a wide variety, or they're about to be available. You know, we tried to do it. You know, we can't please everybody, but I was really happy with how the list came across. I say Sumatra behind you. Yes, I haven't played it yet. Or Kingdoms, actually. What are some of your favorite games that make you feel like you've traveled somewhere? None. I never feel like I traveled somewhere after playing a game. For reference, Santa Monica makes you feel like you've been to the beach. It does not. Speaking of which, am I the only person who is underwhelmed by Santa Monica? Maybe I've just seen it in a gazillion movies. And so when I went to LA, Jason took me to Santa Monica, and we walked. It was okay. It was neat. And I guess you could be like, wow, I'm here where all these movies are. But as a pier itself, I've been to cooler ones. I guess it's just iconic, I suppose. Is Foursquare going to be the permanent replacement for Miami Dice? Yes. I made spaghetti pie last weekend. Delicious and easy. Thanks. My pleasure. The last Mandalorian episode made me want to go back and rewatch those story arcs from Clone Wars and Rebels. It was so good. I agree. I was just talking to my daughter. I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to have to go and watch this Clone Wars stuff. I'm just going to have to watch it. I don't like the animation style. That's what's kept me from watching it. With the releases so back-ended for 2020, do you think any games that came out earlier in 2020 will even be in the running for best games? Yes. And I'll tell you what, folks. I'm kind of surprised people ask this. I get in the public eye that new is hot. But hopefully you can give us some credence that we're not that shallow. Sure, there is a lot of back end to 2020. There's a lot of great games that came out in 2020. But there are games that came out earlier in 2020. And I'm not saying, well, they're not as good as the ones that have just come out necessarily, like at all. And I feel like my top 10 right now, I feel like it's spread throughout the year. In fact, there's a game in it that was actually released in another language before 2020. So, yeah, I feel like I get why you might say that for like popular opinion and stuff. But for us, give us some credence that we definitely take that into account. Do you ever think you would ever make a board game based on your viewers' ideas? I can almost guarantee you I will not. Are you going to get the COVID vaccine as soon as it comes out? Well, we'd like to, but I'm going to assume that they're going to have a priority list as to who can get it first. Like, for example, I assume that older folks and folks at high risk are going to have the opportunity to get it first. I will get it as soon as I am allowed to. I'll stand in line for hours to get it if I have to. But I will allow, I'm assuming that first responders, I would assume, hopefully maybe people working grocery stores can get it first. You know, these frontline essential workers probably need it worse than I do. Besides, if a lot of the older people and people at high risk get it first, that by very nature makes me not having it less of a problem. I'll still get it, but you know what I mean? Like right now, I'm not tremendously concerned on a personal level if I get COVID. I'm assuming I'm young enough, hopefully, that I would survive it. But I don't want to get it to spread to people I know who could, you know, like my wife's parents. You know, I don't want to give it to them or what have you. But if they get the vaccine, then I'm less concerned about that. I still will get it. Do you have a master list somewhere of all the top 10 ideas you're considering doing in the future? I do indeed. Any Kickstarters interest you lately? Well, funny you should ask. Every Wednesday we talk about this on our show called Crowd Surfing. How would you feel if Mattel put a Dice Tower Seal of Excellence on every box of Uno? Oh my word, that would be amazing. Mattel, it ain't gonna happen. So you're asking like, oh, because you don't like it. No, if someone at Dice Tower likes it, fine. I wouldn't give Dice Tower, I wouldn't give the Seal of Excellence to it, but there are games that Z's given Seals of Excellence, which I wouldn't give them Seal of Excellence to either. It is interesting, though. I was at Barnes & Noble's yesterday, and I was sneaking through their book section, and I mean their game section, and I was with my wife, and I told my wife, I said, you gotta hold me back here because there's people browsing there, and we're trying to stay away from people anyway, right? You know, you're supposed to keep 6 foot distance, but I told my wife, I said, I feel like I could stay here all day and be like, hello, welcome here. What kind of games are you interested in? What would you like? Let me point out stuff. I see people pick up a box and I'd be like, I'll just keep my mouth shut. But anyway, one of the things I do, and this is probably egotistical of me, and I'm sorry, but I like to go to Barnes & Noble's and see how many boxes have Dice Tower seals on them or Dice Tower awards on them. This tickles me that a company thinks highly enough of us that they would put that on the box. And I really appreciate that. In-N-Out is good because it's really cheap for the quality of burger that you get. I guess. We're just going to have to agree to disagree there. Sorry, I meant no werewolf video this week. Oh, no, we got 3 going up this week. 1 tomorrow and 2 later on this week. Have you seen the recess boards? I have not. I haven't got Praga yet. I'm waiting for it. Hi, Tom. Will you make a funny noise? But that's what people already say my voice is. In-N-Out is just fresh and cheap. Also need to get animal side. Right. If you go there, I did what I was supposed to do. It's just a personal thing. But I also think everyone who has In-N-Out is just, I don't know. It feels almost like a mini cult. It's weird. I don't get it. I don't get why people like it that much. Besides, if I'm going out to eat, I'm willing to pay, like Fuddruckers, for example. They're also fresh. You say, but they're not cheap. You're right. But I'm willing to pay a little bit more to get a better meal. If I want cheap, I can eat at home. You could go make your own burgers for cheaper than even In-N-Out, and they're really good. I've been practicing cooking burgers on the grill. Oh my word, they're so good, and they're definitely cheaper than In-N-Out. Do you read any other fiction apart from fantasy sci-fi books? What are your favorites? What are your favorite non-fiction books? Oh yeah, I very rarely do. I almost exclusively read fantasy sci-fi. I've read a few spy thrillers, and I do not read it often, but I do like alternate history stuff. That stuff's fascinating to me. Or even fiction set in real history, but they like weave it in and around, the actual events. When I was a kid, one of my favorite series was We Were There At, and they would have these kids who were at the Battle of Alba or, at the Battle of Iwo Jima or whatever it was, Battle of the Bulge, or those I loved, but I just like sci-fi or fantasy. I don't know why. I guess I've read a few political fiction. Political fiction is interesting if it talks about the courts itself. There's an author from the 50s or 60s that I've read. I really like his stuff. And all the names of his books are slipping my mind right now. Drury. Alan Drury, I think is his name. I like his stuff. But I don't read too much stuff that's not sci-fi or fantasy. I don't know why. Hearthstone's the new duels beta as a reward system for playing. Oh. Do you play apps only on the iOS? Yes. South Florida's Polio Tropical. Well, you're posting that in all capitals. I don't know that matters at all. They're not a burger joint either. They're a chicken place, kind of, sort of. They're good. I very rarely go there because their drive-thru so long, though. We only have McDonald's, Burger King, and Five Guys in UK, but you do have Nando's. Oh, so good. My friend Ulysses broke both of his arms and can't play board games for the next month. Can you send him a get well soon? Yes, get well soon, but also, you could still play board games, just have Noah move your pieces for you. Oh, yeah, I guess Steak and Shake's near me, but Steak and Shake is real low on my list. I would probably go to them over McDonald's, but my problem with Steak and Shake is, first of all, their shakes are great. If you're just going there for a shake, fantastic. I have yet to be to a Steak and Shake that has any semblance of speed. My word, for how not good the food is, I mean, it's okay at best. They're just so slow. Every time I go to one, they're super cheap, so there is that. But there's a Steak and Shake that my family and I will often stop at because it's halfway between here and Orlando. And every time I'm like, why did we stop there? We were like the only people in the restaurant and it was slow. Did you at least keep the ketchup bottle from that terrible Heinz game you reviewed? I did not. I stick true to my word. I threw it away. Would you rather play the craft trio of games again or eat a concoction made of the real ingredients? You mean ketchup, mac and cheese, and Jell-O? I wouldn't mix the three of those. But if you said I had to have something with ketchup on, mac and cheese and Jell-O, I'd be fine with that. Closest Whataburger to you is the one in Tallahassee. Yeah, well, then I'm not going there. White or color Christmas lights? 100% color. Like, I won't even hesitate there. I love colorful lights. I think white lights are nice, but they feel elegant, and we're not elegant at the Vasel household. Color lights feel Christmassy to me. White lights feel Christmassy, but it always feels like it's a rich Christmassy. Like, that's what you'd see if you go to Rockefeller Center, and this, they're white. They're the sign of class. Well, we don't have class. Just like my Christmas tree has just ornaments all over it they don't match. Every year we get an ornament from something or other, and there's homemade ornaments on there. And so that is what we put on the Christmas tree. Thank you, Kyle. Very nice of you to say. Let's see here. We've been cooling on the Exit series lately, but find Unlock is getting better and better. Do you feel the Exit may have exhausted the possibilities of their mechanisms? Yeah, I feel like that's definitely... I started with Unlock clearly below Exit, and as time has gone by, they've definitely crossed for me. I just reviewed some Exit games. I still like Exit games. They're fun. But my word, the Unlock ones are so good these days. I'm so pumped about playing the next Unlock. I've played every single Unlock. I have not. I think there's one Exit game I haven't played, maybe two. But I've definitely played all the Unlocks, and I'm pumped about them. How do you decide which games to feature on a podcast? Yeah, it's a good question. I sometimes will pick a game that I'm not going to review for a while. Sometimes I pick it's really kind of just what I feel like talking about. Sometimes it's a game I'm not going to review for a while, so this gives me a chance to talk about it early. Sometimes I talk about a game that I haven't reviewed, maybe Z's played, and I want to talk about it on the show. I don't know. I just pick a couple games that I'm interested in talking about. Thank you for the nice words about 12 games at Christmas. We really like doing those. I feel like it's a useful thing that we do, I hope. And I like the reaction to them. And I really... we try to make them a little bit better each year. With COVID, of course, we have some more restrictions than we used to. But even without COVID, you may see us do them like we did them this time. I thought it worked really well. Do you still get excited about board games or playing all these games? Yes. I should put that like in my FAQ that I'll make someday. Can we see the fresh haircut? Well, it's not fresh now. It's a week out. So I'm just glad to have that hair off my neck. What was the first job you ever had? Okay, so not counting working for my dad or helping my dad out in whatever spot. The first job by myself, when I turned 16, I got a job at the International Grocers Association, the IGA, the Little Apple Market grocery store in downtown Allentown off 7th Street, which is still there because I went and looked online to see if it was or not. Very, very... It's a poor grocery store. It's set in a poor area, it's set in downtown. A lot of people came in there, a lot of interesting stories. The store closed at 8 p.m. So that kind of shows you what kind of clientele, right? 8's not that late now. How could a store stay open until 8? Yeah, that was my first job. I was cart boy for all of 2 months. Made $3.75, but then they upgraded me to stock shelf where I made $4.25 an hour. Very exciting times. And I held that job pretty much till I went to college. I didn't see any reason to change it. I love the job so much, I planned to open a giant grocery store. When I went to college, I worked in a print shop at college, and I worked at a distribution center there. And when I came home over Christmas breaks and stuff, I worked at the grocery store a bit, but then my mom hooked me up with Manpower, and Manpower gave me these white collar type jobs, and man, did I like those. I work as a temp at a office, and I delivered mail in this big office building, which I thought was super fun. Like going all the different places with the cart and delivering mail to people. That was I was like, this is so awesome. You get to talk to people and say hi to people. I got a job where I was typing for something. It was really easy too to get these jobs. I mean, I went to Manpower. They interviewed you. I was excited and talked. They gave me a typing test, and I could type almost 100 words a minute. And once you do that, boom, you're in. It was great. Then at college, I worked at Taco Bell and stuff. Then out of college, I was a pastor, and then I worked at a telemarketing job for a while, and then I went to Korea. I haven't had that many different jobs in my life. I've had some, but once I went to Korea, I taught at an English institute there, jumped to an international school and was a pastor. And then when I came back to America, I taught at a school, and then I did the Dice Tower. The number of jobs in my life is, well, it's more than some people. Some people work 1 or 2 jobs their whole life. But I feel like it's been fairly stable. When did the top 100 start? They start in January. But before that, we have the Winter Spectacular, which is happening halfway through December, the week before Christmas. And we will be doing top 10s of the year and exciting things there. Tom, how strong do you think 2020 has been for games? After looking at the top 10s and going through all these new games from Essen, I would say quite strong. I don't know if there's a game that came out in 2020 which is like the game. Every year has one game which just rolls over everything else. I should say every year. Many years have that year. Last year was Wingspan. The year before that was Gloomhaven, I think. Then there's Azul. Yeah, I already mentioned that. Can you bring me that paper on my desk for the other thing? Kenny's always reminding me to say things on these live streams. But in case you didn't hear it, there's promos in the Board Game Geek store. But anyway, I think it's been a strong year. There just hasn't been a single game that's come out this year that's been the game that we'll all rally around and say that's the game of the year. Like, I couldn't even tell you what's going to win Dice Tower Game of the Year for 2020. I have a suspicion I know what game's going to win, but we'll have to wait and see. I never vote, so it doesn't matter anyway. I always get stuck helping people at the board game store. You know, I thought about that. Yes, thank you. I thought about that, and there's a fine line. Like, you don't want to be annoying about it. I don't know that I would want to go to a video game store and have a guy pop up and go, hey, let me tell you about the best video games. And I'd be like, I kind of know what I want. You know, it's also a little creepy. And with the COVID going on right now, there's that's a problem too, right? But even without the COVID, I just feel like if I'm not asked, only if I guess if someone asks a question out loud, they're like, I never heard of this game. What do you think? I might be like, oh, I've played that and it's fun. Now, if I didn't like it, I think I would say nothing. My goal isn't to rescue people. I feel like that's going down that's kind of. I will say that when we were playing games at Cool Stuff, almost once every thing, someone come in the store looking for a game, and the employee would come up and say, hey, Tom, they're looking for whatever. What do you have a recommendation? I don't mind that at all. That's fun. It's funny going to my FLG and I know more about games than they do, and they usually ask me what to order. Well, I don't know that that's a good thing, though. I, for example, know more about board games than I would assume the manager of my local game store, even though he regularly beats me at board games. But that doesn't mean I know what sells than he does. There's a big difference, and I would be very cautious. If I was running a board game store, I would never ask the local know-it-all board gamer about what to get. I might, because they're just going to tell me hot games that they want to get in. Oh, this game's hot. Yeah, but will that game sell? Should I put DC Deck Builder on my shelf? No, that game's not that good. Yeah, but it sells like 3 or 4 copies a week, so maybe I should. You know, there's that line. You got to walk in between there. That's why if I owned a board game store, when I'm hiring people, I don't really care how much they know about games. Now, I would expect an employee to learn a little bit about games so that they could talk with some reasonable, acuity to the people who come in the store. But you should be doing that no matter where you work. But I don't know that I would hire a super board game nerd because they're just too much. I don't need someone picking up a game and you go, oh, that's not a very good game. I don't need comic book guy. I was at Barnes & Noble's yesterday, too. Would you play the Card Shark game or the Press Your Luck game? But that's very, very specific. I feel like I told my daughter I wasn't going to play either one of those. We weren't in the same Barnes & Noble's, were we? And if we were, you should have said hi. No, but I was just talking to my daughter about the different games there. And I thought specifically I mentioned both those and saying I wouldn't play them. Are there any games you wish you could retract your Dice Tower Seal of Excellence from? I don't think so. Do you think the trend of giant box Kickstarters is here to stay? Who knows? It's here for a while. Everything tends to go in waves, so maybe we'll have a wave of not many being out for a while. How do you determine a seal the game gets on a 4 squares review? Like if someone gives a game a 3 and another gives it a 9, does it get a Seal of Excellence? Yes. And people say, but why? Because we've always been doing that. It's been that way since the Dice Tower started. You just haven't noticed it. So let's say, for example, I played a game way back in the day with Sam and Z, and they hated it and I loved it. So I just did the review without them. I gave it a Dice Tower Seal of Excellence. No one said anything. If I had included them in the review and they both said they hated it, now suddenly I shouldn't give it a Seal of Excellence? So you see what I'm saying? It already happens. You just don't notice it. So the 4 squares review shows 4 opinions, but if one of them thinks it gets a seal of approval or excellence, it does. And I feel that's the way it should be. Because I respect all of our opinions, mine's the best, about games, but if someone really likes it, then it should get it. We don't give these things out willy-nilly, and so there you go. White cast or sliders for the win? I have to call you out on this blatant lie. Let's see here. In-N-Out is better than White Castle if we're talking overrated burger joints. That's probably true. When do you put your Christmas tree up at home? Traditionally, we've always put it up on Black Friday, which, for those outside America, is the Friday after our Thanksgiving. Were you able to get a PS5? Right now, at this point in time in my life, I don't have one. I'm still looking. What movie pushed to next year are you most looking forward to finally getting to see next year? I guess Black Widow. Marvel stuff, I guess. But I'm not that tied to any movie. With no movies coming out, that's one thing that doesn't really bother me. If movies get pushed back, I'm like, there's always like a gazillion things I haven't seen yet. The thing with In-N-Out is that they actually treat their employees well, above minimum wage, healthcare, opportunities for growth. They make relationship in the community by treating people well. And that's fantastic, and I applaud them. But it still doesn't mean I'm going to go buy a burger from them. I don't know that if someone, it's kind of like if there's a guy who owns a store and he's really, really nice, but he charges twice the price of everybody else. I shouldn't give him something because he's nice. If In-N-Out does this, I can applaud that. And if everything equal between them and another place, I'd pick them maybe. But I don't know that should make me like a product that somebody does. Although that's a good debate topic, I guess. Any advice on building a games table? No. I'm so sorry. I don't know how to build a games table. I get mine. Mine are from Rathscour. It's a great company and everything. Unless you're talking about getting them, lights, ledge size. The new one we have, I made it longer because sometimes you have a longer sized game. So I want this table to be a little bit longer. I like having the cup holders built into the table, and I like having this little ledge on the outside of the board so I can put cards in it. Any recommendations on a good post-apocalyptic sci-fi book? Yes, actually. Hang on, I'm going to find in a second. It's called the Apocalypse Triptych. And they are The End Is Nigh, The End Is Now, and The End Has Come. It's a series of short stories, although what many of the authors did was they put a short story in all three books that go together. So The End Is Nigh is about the apocalypse happening. The End Is Now is about during the apocalypse, or directly after. And The End Has Come is post-apocalyptic. And it's really interesting. And they pick all different things, from meteorite to zombies to virus, whatever it is. And there's some in there that I was like, on. But there were some that I really enjoyed. And it's really interesting. My only complaint was they put the stories in different orders in the books. And so when I was reading book 2, I'd be like, I'd start reading a story and I was like, all right, before I read this story, who's the author? Go back to the first book, look at the author. Okay, quick. Okay, that's what that story's about. Jump to the second one. Okay, now I know what's happened. And sometimes the authors wrote directly sequels, and sometimes they just wrote in that same universe that they had made. But I'm not a big post-apocalyptic fan, but I really like that trilogy. Let's see here. You mentioned Project Down in your Christmas video. I can't find where to buy it. I thought you could buy it from them. But, well, hopefully it comes out soon somewhere where you can get it. If I won a game from Board Game Breakfast in the past, does it change my chance of winning a future game? I don't think so. I don't set it up that way. What did you replace the Cubitos dice boxes with? Oh, my little plastic dice boxes that little plastic containers that I stick in everything. Those things are amazing. We had them made for our Kickstarter the last 2 years, and once we made them, I ordered like 3,000 for myself, and I put them in almost all the Dice Tower library games. I'm sitting over here on the side, because we use them in our games here quite a bit. So I have a pile over here. Here's the lids and the box itself. These things are great. You put the pieces in, put the lid on top, and there you go. Stays in the box. It's nice and sturdy. Doesn't come apart very easily at all. Then when you open them, I take the stuff that's in it. Let's say there's resource tokens. I put half in one, half in the other. Put them on two sides of the table. It works amazing. These are also nice and square, no extra fluff on them, and they fit inside the game box. Now, it does sound like a bit like I'm doing an infomercial here, so whatever. I apologize for that. But I really like these, and that's what I replaced the Cubitos with, these. You should have made Z wear a silly Christmas hat. He was wearing a Christmas hat. I got him a baseball cap, because that's Z. Who would you want as a father-in-law, Palpatine or Vader? Why would any? That's not even a close answer. It's Vader. Why would you want Palpatine? Vader seems like he'd be mean occasionally. Palpatine seems like he'd be mean all the time. How old is my youngest kid need to be in order to safely replace the carpet in my house? I don't know. All right. Erica's is top 100. You're right. And I believe 10 through 1 goes up tomorrow. Have you had a chance to look at the new expansion for Civilization A New Dawn? I can just tell you I'm not going to be. I thought the game was okay. Not fantastic, so I have no interest in the expansion for it at all. Jaws of the Lion and BGD's top 100, so I think that steamrolled a lot of games. Sure, but I don't count that as a new game. That's just a variation on an existing game. I mean, don't get me wrong, I thought it was great, but you won't see it on my top 10 of the year list because it's Gloomhaven again. And that would, I mean, and then next year I'm not putting Frosthaven on my list. We're just going to keep doing a new Gloomhaven thing every year. Do you have a favorite color for a game box? Not particularly. I do tend to like the white ones, but I just like colorful game boxes. Like the ones behind me. Kingdoms, I like this box. Sumatra, gotta love dinosaurs. There's more boxes you can't see, but I don't know. I just like colorful boxes. At my friendly local game store the other day, there was a guy who commented literally every single bolt action product I picked up. Super annoying. Right. And that's the thing. Sometimes it annoys people. So you have to kind of, if you're going to help people at the store, you got to be able to read the room and figure out, am I helping them or am I annoying them and they're just being polite? So I usually, it's hard to tell, right? So sometimes it's best to err on the side of caution. Let's see here. Is there a game you love to play but hate to teach? Oh, there's a lot. Root is the first one that comes to mind there. I hate teaching Root, but it's fun to play. Let's see here. Sorry, I'm just looking for some good question to end this on here. There's a lot of reviews coming this week. I got on the table here set up. You're going to see tomorrow a review of New York Zoo. I have Kodama Forest. I think I'm taking a look at Tiny Epic Dinosaurs. Actually, I think I'm reviewing 2 dinosaur games this week. Information Dice Tower Cruise will be coming really soon. We're working on that now. I just wrote some stuff for Jason today, so you should get information on that really soon. I saw you rate Dominion and Dominion Intrigue at 10, but the second edition's a 9. Maybe because my rating of 10 has dropped to a 9 for Dominion, but it's probably 9.5 now. Again, no. The second edition's better than the first edition, probably. If I go back and rewrite Dominion, maybe it's not going to make a 10 when I re-rate it. That's all. Excited about a Bank reprint. I am indeed. I'm looking forward to that. All right, I think I'm going to end there. I apologize. I know there's a lot of good questions still here, but it is time for me to get back to doing. There's a lot of things that we're going through right now. We're working on, like I said, the Winter Spectacular, working on fulfilling in Kickstarter, working on setting up next year's Kickstarter. We got reviews that go up this week. We're not doing much work next week, so we're preparing some of that. Before we go, though, I would like to give a shout out to some of our Kickstarter backers. First of all, Jim Stevenson, thank you very much. Linda Gass from Quebec, hooray, Quebec. And then Ronan and all the gamers in Dungeons and Donuts. That's a great name for a store in Galway, Ireland. Thank you all for backing our Kickstarter. We really appreciate it. And I hope all of you have a fantastic week. I know that we are in holiday season full blast, and holiday season is not as joyous, maybe for many people, as it might have been otherwise. But we'll try to maintain and have different interesting things here on the Dice Tower if you can't go out anywhere. We hope you enjoy it. We'll keep an eye out for live stuff. Tomorrow I'll be on Rado's channel with him at 2 o'clock. Wednesday we got crowd surfing. Thursday we have Board Game Breakfast Live. And the podcast next Tuesday, which is a week from tomorrow. Tomorrow's Manny and Suzanne, but the podcast from that, it'll be me and a special guest. So that would be interesting. And don't forget, of course, our live top 10. And as soon as we know the bicycle link for the panel, we'll be posting it on our social media. So until next time, I'm Tom Vasel. I hope you all have a fantastic day. I'll see you next time.